You know, if you look at the top charts for podcasts, it's almost all true crime. We're just obsessed with the whodunit.
It's a total fascination with the darker side of human nature, for sure.
But what's funny is that the oldest story in the book, I mean, literally one of the very first stories in the Bible, is a true crime story. It's the original homicide.
Absolutely. Two brothers, a field and a body. We all know the names. Cain and Abel.
We do. Genesis chapter 4. It's iconic. But here's the thing. Usually when we hear this story, it's just framed as this simple morality tale about jealousy.
Right. Don't be jealous of your brother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we have a stack of sources today that argue it's not just about sibling rivalry. They argue this is sort of case zero for the entire human condition.
That's a great way to put it. The source material we're looking at today, and it spans from Genesis all the way to Revelation, suggests this whole story is the foundational archetype for two completely opposing ways of approaching the divine.
So not just Cain versus Abel.
No, it's bigger. It's works versus faith. It's human pride versus God's standard.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're not just retelling the plot. We want to figure out the motive. Specifically, why did God accept one offering and reject the other? Because that single moment, that rejection is the catalyst for everything.
It is. It's the moment the path forks. And to understand it, we kind of have to strip away the Sunday school version we might have in our heads and look at the text with fresh eyes.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Genesis 4. The world is brand new. Adam and Eve are out of Eden, and they start a family. Who are the players here?
We have the first two sons. First, there's Cain. The text calls him a tiller of the ground. So, a farmer.
He works the earth?
Right. And then you have his younger brother, Abel, who's a keeper of sheep, a shepherd.
Okay, let's stop right there for a second. In our world, those are just two different jobs. You have agriculture and animal husbandry. Is the source material trying to say God just prefers shepherds over farmers?
That's a really common tripping point, but the source makes it clear that the job itself isn't the problem. It's what the jobs represent in this specific context.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. A farmer controls his environment. He tills, he plants, he weeds, he harvests. It's very hands-on, very much about human effort.
Okay.
A shepherd, you're a lot more reliant on the well-being of the flock, on protecting them from things a little outside your direct control.
So we're already seeing a difference in what their posture toward the world?
Exactly. And that posture becomes really explicit when we get to the offerings in verses 3 through 5. In the process of time, they both bring something to God.
Right. And the details here really matter, don't they? Cain brings the fruit of the ground.
And Abel brings the firstlings of his flock and of the fat of it.
And then comes the verdict. The Lord had respect unto Abel and to Abel's offering. But for Cain?
For Cain and his offering, the text says God had not respect. Total rejection.
This is the moment I really want to drill into. If I'm Cain, I am furious. I mean, I worked hard for that harvest. That's backbreaking work. He brings the fruit of his labor, and God just says, nope. Why?
This is where the source material gets really specific, and it's fascinating. It points out this huge distinction in the offerings themselves. First, look at what Abel brought. Firstlings and fat.
Break that down for us. What does that mean?
Firstlings means the very first offspring. Abel gave to God before he knew if the ewe would have more lambs. It was a risk. It was an act of faith that put God's portion first. And the fat, in that culture, the fat was the best part. The luxury cut.
So Abel's bringing the first and the best. He's basically saying, God, you get the premium stuff right off the top.
Precisely. Now look at Cain. The text just says he brought fruit of the ground. It doesn't say first fruits. It doesn't say the best fruit. The implication in the analysis is that Cain brought, what was left over, what was convenient.
But there's something deeper here too. The source mentions blood.
And that is the absolute critical key. The source argues this is the first clash between works and faith. Abel's offering involved a death. It involved blood, which points to the whole biblical idea that approaching a holy God requires a sacrifice, an acknowledgement that I am not enough.
And Cain's offering was, well, a basket of vegetables.
Essentially. But think about what that represents. Cain is saying, God, look at what I made. Look at what my hands produced. It's an offering of self-sufficiency. The source calls it self-made religion.
So it's a huge difference in attitude. Abel is saying, I'm relying on this sacrifice. Cain is saying, here's my resume, aren't you impressed?
And when God isn't impressed, well, that's when everything falls apart.
Which leads us to the psychological fallout. Genesis 4, verse 6. It says, Cain was very angry and his countenance fallen.
That phrase, countenance fallen, is so evocative. It implies this deep depression, a physical dropping of the face. But when you mix that with intense anger, it's a volatile combination.
It's humiliation.
Total humiliation. And God doesn't just leave him there to stew in it. He actually intervenes. He asks him, "If you do well, shall you not be accepted?"
That's a moment of grace that gets overlooked, isn't it?
It's huge. God is basically coaching him. He's saying, "Cain, the standard isn't a secret. You know what doing well looks like." The implication is that Cain knew the right way to approach a God, but his pride got in the way.
And then comes that terrifying warning: sin lies at the door.
Yeah, the imagery is predatory. Sin isn't just a concept. It's personified as this beast, crouching, waiting to pounce the second you open that door.
God is warning him, you are on a precipice. You can still turn back. You can repent of this mindset.
That's the key word the source highlights: repent. Cain had a window. He had a chance to say, "You know what, I messed up." He could have asked his brother for a lamb.
But that would require humility. It would mean admitting his own works weren't good enough.
And Cain, well, he couldn't do it.
So instead of killing the lamb, he decides to kill the shepherd.
That is the tragedy of it all. Genesis 4:8. Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him. The first death. The first murder.
And we have to ask the question, why? Was it just anger? Was it just jealousy?
Well, the source material pulls in the New Testament to give us the motive. It points to 1 John 3:12, which asks, "And why did he kill him?" The answer it gives is, because his own works were evil and his brother's righteous.
Whoa, that changes everything.
It really does. It elevates the crime from just passion to a crime of theology. The source argues Cain didn't just hate Abel, he hated what Abel represented.
Abel's righteousness, his faith, was like a spotlight on Cain's own inadequacy.
Precisely. When your whole system is built on your own effort and pride, the presence of someone who is righteous by faith it's intolerable. It's a personal insult to your ego. The rejection of true worship produced hatred against righteousness itself.
It's a dark cycle. Rejection of God leads to violence against God's people.
And the judgment that follows is swift. Cain is cursed. He becomes a fugitive and a vagabond, and then you get that final heartbreaking line, "And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord."
The source really emphasizes that. Sin isn't just breaking a rule, it's a mechanism of separation. You choose your own way and you end up alone.
Right. But our deep dive doesn't stop at the crime scene. The source material argues this is just the opening act. It connects these dots all the way through the Bible.
So let's fast forward. The source takes us to the New Testament, to Hebrews 11. This feels like the final verdict on the case.
It is. Hebrews 11 is like the hall of faith, and Abel is the first person on the list. And it says, clear as day, by faith Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice.
By faith, there it is. That settles the whole debate about fruit versus sheep.
It does. It wasn't about the stuff. It was about the posture. Abel acted by faith. Cain acted by works. The source also points to the book of Jude, which warns people about following the way of Cain.
The way of Cain. That sounds like a whole philosophy.
It is. Jude groups Cain with other rebels from the Old Testament. The way of Cain is what the source calls self-righteous religion. It's the belief that I am good enough that my ways should be honored.
And this is where the source takes a really interesting turn. It draws a parallel between Cain and Abel and Ishmael and Isaac.
Yes, this is a bit of deeper theology, but it's crucial to the whole argument.
Okay, so give us the quick refresher. Ishmael and Isaac, Abraham's sons.
Right, God promises Abraham a son, but Abraham and Sarah get impatient, they're old, so they try to solve the problem with human effort. Abraham has a child with Hagar, the servant, and Ishmael is born.
So Ishmael is the work solution. I'll make this happen myself.
Exactly. He is born of the flesh of human planning. Just like Cain's offering was the product of his own labor. But then, years later, God miraculously fulfills his promise. Sarah gives birth to Isaac.
So Isaac is the faith solution. I have to trust and wait for God to do this.
You've got it. And the source argues that the pattern repeats. Just as Cain, the man of works, persecuted Abel, the man of faith, the book of Galatians says Ishmael, the child of works, mocked and persecuted Isaac, the child of promise.
Wow, that's fascinating. So the argument is that throughout all of history, you have these two streams of humanity. The people trying to earn their way to God and the people willing to receive it by faith.
And the source is adamant. God doesn't accept the first stream. He only accepts the child of the promise. He only accepts faith.
Which brings us to the core application. If this is the pattern, how do we avoid being Cain? What's the core biblical truth here?
The source really leans on the Apostle Paul to explain the mechanics of it. Romans 10:10 says, "With the heart man believes unto righteousness." Notice the anatomy there.
The heart, not the hands.
Exactly. Righteousness is an internal state of trust, not an external list of accomplishments. But the real light bulb moment in the source is the comparison between debt and gift in Romans 4.
Oh, this is the part that really clicked for me. Break down that debt concept.
Okay, so you go to work, you put in your hours, at the end of the week, your boss gives you a paycheck. Is that a gift?
No, he owes me that. It's a debt. I earned it.
Precisely. The source argues Cain wanted that relationship with God. He wanted to put God in his debt. I did the work, now you owe me acceptance. But Romans 4 says, "For the one who works, the reward is not grace, but debt."
And God refuses to be in anyone's debt.
He can't be. He's the source of everything, so the only alternative is the gift. The text says, "To him who does not work, but believes, his faith is counted as righteousness."
That feels so counterintuitive to our whole society. We're taught to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
And that's why the way of Cain is so tempting. It appeals to our pride. It feels good to say, "I earned this," but the source just shuts that down with Ephesians 2:89. Saved through faith, not of works, lest any man should boast.
Lest any man should boast.
Yeah.
That brings us right back to that field. Cain wanted to boast. Abel had nothing to boast about except the sacrifice.
And that's the binary choice. The source connects this directly to the gospel message. It cites Jesus in John 14, "I am the way, not a way," and Paul in Galatians, warning against any other gospel.
So the source is really arguing that any system of thought that says, I can get to God by being a good person or doing enough good deeds is just a modern version of Cain's offering.
That is the hardline conclusion of the source, yes. It presents a stark choice. Cain's way. Works without faith, that leads to rejection. Abel's way. Faith in God. That leads to righteousness. There's no middle ground.
It's really striking how this one ancient story sets the stage for everything that follows. It's like the human condition hasn't really changed at all.
We're all still standing at that same door. And we're all still tempted to be Cain. I mean, think about it. It's easier to work hard than it is to surrender your pride. It's easier to do good things, which are good. But if you're doing them to buy God's favor, that's Cain.
That's a powerful distinction. You can do good works and still be on the way of Cain if your motive is to make God owe you.
Precisely. Faith is the total surrender of that control. It's coming with empty hands and saying, "I have nothing to offer but my trust in you." And that is terrifying to the human ego.
So we've gone from the murder in the field to the theology of Paul. Where does the source leave us? What's the final word?
It takes us to the very end of the Bible, Revelation 22.
The tree of life.
Yes. The text speaks of those who are blessed so that they may have the right to the tree of life and can enter in through the gates into the city.
I love that symmetry. Cain was exiled. He went out from the presence of the Lord. And the way of faith leads you back in. It's the homecoming.
It is the ultimate restoration. You aren't storming the gates with your accomplishments. You're granted entry because your standing is right through faith.
So here is the provocative thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. The source presents this as a choice we're all making constantly. The way of Cain or the way of Abel?
It really is the most fundamental question.
So in the narrative of your own life, right now, look at your hands. Are you standing at the door holding a basket of your own effort, your own resume, hoping it's good enough to buy your way in? Or are you willing to drop all of that and approach with the empty hands of trust?
That's the question that determines everything.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
See you next time.